You can now get 2 free audiobook downloads and a 30-day free trial at audible.bogosity.tv. Your choice from the world's largest selection of over 180,000 digital audiobooks and spoken word content for your iOS or Android device, Kindle, or MP3 player. Go to audible.bogosity.tv now. Welcome to the Bogosity Podcast for the week of April 7th, 2017, the podcast that carries you back to old Virginia. This is your host, Shane Killian. Let's semi-deify the news of the bogus. And it's another week of WikiLeaks Vault 7 revelations, this time revealing the tools the CIA uses to cover their tracks, making it look like the breach was done by someone else like China or Russia. And this is a common thing we've talked about before. When we discussed the Sony hack, we talked about how much hay was being made of the fact that it came from a North Korean IP address, when if it had been done by the North Korean government, it should have been a Chinese IP address, meaning it was probably from someone wanting to make it look like North Korea. More recently, the DNC hack, which some people blamed on Russia, one lame piece of evidence for that was the fact that the hackers used a Cyrillic keyboard, when any programmer will tell you they would have used a US keyboard because programming languages are made using those symbols. So that was more likely the hacker wanting to point the finger at Russians. So this release, dubbed Marble, contains 676 files of source code designed to hide the true source of CIA hacking and malware. It deliberately covers up signatures of CIA malware and uses bits of foreign text to insert into source code to make analysts falsely attribute attacks to the wrong nation. According to WikiLeaks, quote, Marble is used to hamper forensic investigators and antivirus companies from attributing viruses, trojans, and hacking attacks to the CIA. For example, by pretending that the spoken language of the malware creator was not American English, but Chinese, but then showing attempts to conceal the use of Chinese, drawing forensic investigators even more strongly to the wrong conclusion. Now that this has been released, those investigators will be able to use it to reveal wrongly attributed cyber attacks as being done by the CIA instead. According to UC Berkeley researcher Nicholas Weaver, quote, This appears to be one of the most technically damaging leaks ever done by WikiLeaks, as it seems designed to directly disrupt ongoing CIA operations and attribute previous operations. The CIA, as you might expect, was not amused. Their spokesstooge, Dean Boyd, said, quote, Dictators and terrorists have no better friend in the world than Julian Assange, as theirs is the only privacy he protects. The American public should be deeply troubled by any WikiLeaks disclosure designed to damage the intelligence community's ability to protect America against terrorists and other adversaries. Such disclosures not only jeopardize U.S. personnel and operations, but also equip our adversaries with tools and information to do us harm. Of course, the CIA is far from the only one with hacking technology like this. There are many forms of obfuscation done by other hackers, and of course, now that this code is out there, other hackers are free to use it too. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if some hacker somewhere now made a tool to make it look like the CIA had used this tool to shift the blame somewhere else. The race continues. Say, if you're tired of the promos in this podcast, well, the patrons got it early and with no ads or promos. Just go to patreon.bogosity.tv and donate at any level. Do you have children or nieces or nephews? Are you homeschooling or just want to counter some of the socialist indoctrination most children get in school? If so, go to bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins and you'll be taken to a website where you can get some great books for elementary age children. The Tuttle Twins books are books about liberty and free market economics that include children's versions of Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, and Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, as well as books about the Federal Reserve and how regulations protect business cronies. They'll learn about the harm caused by eminent domain, or regulations passed in the name of safety, and fundamental concepts of liberty. And as you can see from the sample pages on the website, they're all easy to read and nicely illustrated. They're just $9.99 a piece, or get a special discount as well as free bonuses when you purchase all 5. You can even buy in bulk to donate to schools and local libraries. So get the Tuttle Twins books at bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins. It's hard to believe we're having this conversation again, but now it's the European Union that's pushing for encryption backdoors. EU Justice Commissioner Vera Jourova says she's being pushed by politicians all over Europe to legislate intrusion into encrypted communications, and that she'll outline 3 or 4 options to give the European Commission a swift and reliable way to read communications done through encrypted apps. She said, quote, "At the moment, prosecutors, judges, also police and law enforcement authorities are dependent on whether or not providers will voluntarily provide the access and the evidence. This is not the way we can facilitate and ensure the security of Europeans being dependent on some voluntary action." But we've long known how much the EU hates voluntary action anyway. This comes on the heels of the German government proposing a €50 million fine if companies like Facebook and Twitter don't remove obvious criminal content, whatever that means, within 24 hours, and the EC insisting that social media sites change their terms and conditions, like requiring people to sue them in California instead of that person's home country, which doesn't work that way with anything else. It's really just part of the disturbing trend of governments holding websites responsible for the actions of their users. A lot of this was prompted by the March 22nd attack in London, which prompted the UK government to say that Google and Facebook, quote, "can and must do more." They say, quote, "The debate over encryption has been going on for well over a year." Make that over 30 years? We've been here before, remember. We've covered the encryption export ban in the 90s and how it was such an abysmal failure that we're still paying the price for it 20 years after the ban was lifted, in the form of many breaches and attacks that would never have been able to happen otherwise. This is going to have far-reaching consequences, and it just isn't worth it. And again, it's not like they've been able to foil terrorist attacks when their communications are unencrypted, like pretty much all of them have been. If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. And now from our What's the Harm department comes the personal story of a woman who was almost conned into buying useless homeopathic medicine at CVS. Jan Bellamy told her story on the Science-Based Medicine blog. Quote, "Whether due to Tallahassee's abundance of pollen, or the 24/7 oxygen she must breathe to stay alive, or the side effects of the diuretic she must take to relieve fluid buildup, my mother suffers from dry, itchy, red eyes." The hospice nurse suggested allergy eye drops to relieve these symptoms. As I searched the CVS aisle, my eyes landed on a line of drops from Similacin, a company unfamiliar to me. Allergy eye drops were among Similacin's several eye remedy product choices, which were themselves but one brand in a sea of eye drops, including CVS's store brand. Because I was in a hurry to visit my mother prior to meeting with the care team, I almost grabbed the Similacin box and headed to the checkout. But the words natural ingredients on the label set off my skeptical antennae. I picked up both the Similacin and CVS brand eye drops to compare. I was stunned. In my rush, I had almost bought a homeopathic remedy, and I was angry. What if I had not noticed? What if my mother had used the eye drops, which would have given her no relief from the small misery, among many larger ones she suffers daily, of irritated eyes? What of other consumers who don't know any better? I found on a shelf just below this plethora of homeopathic eye drops, conventional allergy eye drops, and made my way to the checkout counter, where I told a very nice young man, Albert, according to my receipt, what I thought of CVS selling homeopathic remedies, displaying them right along real eye drops to boot. So Albert gave her the phone number to complain to CVS. So what actually was in this? Well, there were 3 ingredients at 6x dilution. The label doesn't explain what that is, so I will. X is Roman numeral 10. So this is a 1 in 10 dilution done 6 times. The concentration of the active ingredient is literally 1 in a million. It's not as ridiculous as some popular concentrations, which include 30C, and C is 100, so 30C is 1 followed by 60 zeros, and 150C, 1 followed by 300 zeros. So what are these 3 ingredients? They're all based on the homeopathic principle that like cures like. So if you want to cure eye irritation, you want to give the person ingredients that irritate their eyes. This apparently makes sense somehow. One of the ingredients is Euphrasia officinalis, also known as eye bright. It's used by herbalists for eye inflammation, but it's not effective and possibly even unsafe, although at 1 in a million dilution, the most you probably have to worry about is it not working. Then there's Sabbatia from the Sabbatia lily, a poisonous plant used as a pesticide for lice. It even includes a risk of fatality, although hopefully 1 in a million is enough of a dilution not to kill anyone. But it really does make me wish they'd gone the 30C route. And my personal favorite, Apis mellifica. You know what that is? Honeybees. Not their honey or anything like that, the bees themselves. Ground up, crushed up, smushed up, and diluted. Here's the idea. Since bees sting, and like cures like, honeybees should cure stinging in your eyes. You just can't make this stuff up. She also looked at CVS's own brand of homeopathic eye drops. They included a 6x solution of belladonna, a toxic substance that has a severe warning from the FDA. Ask any plant biologist. Putting belladonna in your eyes is a really, really, really bad idea. It also contains a 6x solution of eyebright and Heplar sulfuris diluted to 12x or 1 in 1 trillion. And you know what that is? The inner layer of oyster shells. Folks, homeopathy doesn't work. We've covered that. But while usually it was otherwise harmless since they dilute them to the point where there's not even a single molecule of the active ingredient left, that's not the case with these smaller dilutions. Bellamy points out, quote, without the support of Congress, the inertia of the FDA, and enthusiasm from certain quarters of the mainstream medical community, homeopathy would be relegated to the backwaters of naturopathic quackery and fringe MDs who practice homeopathy, or illegal even, instead of a multi-billion-dollar industry. As for her grandmother, quote, CVS and Similasan and all those who support homeopathy think it's perfectly okay to deprive her of one small comfort, relieving her troublesome eye symptoms. When I tried to help her, they wanted to scam me by selling me their worthless products, which are craftily displayed right alongside real remedies. They would prefer that we drop crushed honeybees and belladonna in her eyes. Shame on them. Shame on all of you who promote homeopathy. We live in a world where light bulbs connect to the internet, and recent attacks on them prove that your online security is under threat like never before. Not only your websites, but the internet-enabled devices you buy. And the biggest problem is weak passwords. That's why you need LastPass. LastPass allows you to randomly generate strong, unique passwords on the web and on your internet-enabled devices, all protected by one master password. LastPass sets up in minutes and gives you secure automatic logins throughout the web, synchronizing across all your browsers, all your computers, and even your mobile devices, at home, at work, or on the road. It even securely stores sensitive form data, including credit card numbers, backup sensitive documents, software licenses, Wi-Fi logins, and more. And with LastPass Premium, you can get these benefits on other applications, manage passwords for your entire family, and also get priority customer support. Sign up at password.bogosity.tv for a free month of LastPass Premium. Log in securely everywhere using the last password you'll ever have to remember. Go to password.bogosity.tv and get LastPass now. And now it's time to kitschify this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And this week it goes to NeonNettle, which, it should be said, is not a fake news website like this PolitiFact article claims, but like pretty much all of them, they have been remiss in the past, as they were here when they credulously passed along claims of anti-vaxxers that doctors had been murdered by the pro-vaccination conspiracy cartel or whatever. The headline was, "Doctors who discovered cancer enzymes in vaccines found murdered." The story claims the vaccines have an enzyme in them called nagalase that inhibits the production of vitamin D. It goes on in short order to claim that a number of doctors were murdered, and the thing they all had in common was that they discovered nagalase in vaccines. PolitiFact points out that the studies showing the cancer-causing nature of nagalase have all been retracted by the journals where they were published. But I guess that's because they're all part of the conspiracy too. The information on these murdered doctors seems to have come from healthnutnews.com. Not like police reports or anything. PolitiFact couldn't find any information that those doctors were connected to any sort of vaccine discoveries. A lot of this is the same sort of stuff we talked about when we covered the Clinton body count, like 67-year-old Dr. Bruce Heddenall, a chiropractor who died of natural causes and had no connection to vaccines or the pharmaceutical companies in any way. 46-year-old Dr. Teresa Ann Sievers was murdered in her home, but the murderer was her husband, who hired 2 hitmen to kill her for the insurance money. 63-year-old Dr. Jeffrey Whiteside committed suicide after fighting with his wife, and 74-year-old ophthalmologist Dr. Patrick Fitzpatrick went missing while hiking. Neither had any connection to vaccines. In fact, the only one who did was 61-year-old Dr. Jeff Bradstreet, a former pastor and a proponent of the long-refuted claim that vaccines cause autism. He treated autistic patients with the GCMAF protein, which has never been shown to be any kind of treatment for autism whatsoever. Bradstreet committed suicide, which was apparently prompted by an FDA investigation in which his medical office was raided. So, of the 5 people, only 1 was murdered, and that one had no connection to vaccines. The only one with a connection to vaccines was not murdered, and his connection was the vaccine autism Bogosity, not this nagalase enzyme. PolitiFact traced NeonNettle's source to thebigriddle.com, which posted this exact story a year ago. That story cites as its source conspiracyclub.co, but that website doesn't exist anymore. Just a tiny bit of investigation by NeonNettle would have told him how specious this story is. So while they're not a fake news site like PolitiFact claims, we still don't hesitate to name NeonNettle this week's biggest Bogon emitter. Bogosity.tv gives you great ways to shop at Amazon. Clear your cookies and go to amazon.bogosity.tv and you won't pay a penny more for your purchase. Or go to prime.bogosity.tv for a 30-day free trial of Amazon Prime and enjoy thousands of movies and TV episodes, borrowed Kindle books, and get unlimited 2-day shipping for free. And speaking of Kindle, go to kindle.bogosity.tv for a 30-day free trial to Kindle Unlimited. Read over 1 million books and listen to thousands of audiobooks on any device. Or go to home.bogosity.tv to Try Amazon Home Services. Over 1,000 different services from quality hand-picked pros, from house cleaning to equipment and furniture assembly, plumbing, electrical, painting, and other handyman services, all backed by Amazon's happiness guarantee. And as always, check the right-hand side of the podcast page for special Amazon deals. And now it's time to violate the rule of thirds on this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. And it's nice to know that not all skeptics have drunk the SJW Kool-Aid. One of the remaining voices of reason is Jerry Coyne, author of the book Why Evolution is True, writing on his blog of the same name. And he talks about SJWs getting their panties in a wad all over a painting about the civil rights struggle. The painting was a depiction of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old African-American boy who was falsely accused of flirting with a white woman. It later came out that she completely made it all up, but hey, listen and believe, right? And as a result, Till was tortured and killed by the woman's husband and his half-brother. The two were tried for his kidnapping and murder, but were acquitted by an all-white jury, even though the men later confessed to doing it. Till's mother insisted on an open casket funeral so people could see what had been done to him. Coin links to a picture, but steel yourself before you click on that link. It's just horrendous. So Dana Schutz recently painted an expressionistic depiction of Till's body in the coffin, which was displayed at the Whitney Biennial exhibition at the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York, where it immediately drew complaints and condemnation. Why? Because Schutz is white, and for no other reason. African-American artist Parker Bright said that Schutz had, quote, nothing to say to the black community about black trauma, and that the painting should, quote, be destroyed and not entered into any market or museum. Whitney ISP graduate Hannah Black started a petition for the painting to be removed, quote, that even the disfigured corpse of a child was not sufficient to move the white gaze from its habitual cold calculation is evident daily and in a myriad of ways, not least the fact that this painting exists at all. In brief, the painting should not be acceptable to anyone who cares or pretends to care about black people, because it is not acceptable for a white person to transmute black suffering into profit and fun, though the practice has been normalized for a long time. Those non-black artists who sincerely wish to highlight the shameful nature of white violence should first of all stop treating black pain as raw material. The subject matter is not Schutz's. White free speech and white creative freedom have been founded on the constraint of others and are not natural rights. The painting must go. So there you have it. You don't have freedom of speech if you're white. She said it. Schutz responded, quote, I don't know what it's like to be black in America, but I do know what it's like to be a mother. Emmett was Mamie Till's only son. The thought of anything happening to your child is beyond comprehension. It is easy for artists to self-censor, to convince yourself not to make something before you even try. Art can be a space for empathy, a vehicle for connection. Josephine Livingstone and Lovia Gyarki of New Republic called the painting cultural appropriation. Quote, Mobley wanted those photographs to bear witness to the racist brutality inflicted on her son. Instead, Schutz has disrespected that act of dignity by defacing them with her own creative way of seeing. They and 35 other signatories called for the painting to be destroyed. Here's what Coin has to say, quote, I completely reject your criticism. If only artists of the proper ethnicity can depict violence inflicted on their group, then only writers of the proper ethnicity can write about the same issues, and so on with all the arts. He's got a point. Harper Lee was a white woman. Quote, I will not allow you to fracture art and literature the way you have fractured politics. Yes, horrible injustices have been visited on minority groups, on women, on gays, and on other marginalized people, but to allow that injustice to be conveyed only by properly ethnic or gendered artists is to deny us our common humanity and deprive us of emotional solidarity. No group, whatever its pigmentation or chromosomal constitution, has the exclusive right to create art or literature about their own subgroup. To deny others that right is to censor them. To those who say this painting has caused them unnecessary hurt because it is by a white artist about black pain, I say, your own pain about this artwork is gratuitous. I do not take it seriously. It is the cry of a coddled child who simply wants attention. As for the accusation that this painting was done for profit and fun, that's a disgusting and reprehensible thing to say. We cannot allow the culture of offense to rule the culture of art. If art is to flourish in a free society, it can be criticized, but it cannot be censored. Emmett Till was black, but his story belongs to all of us. Right on, Coin, and I can't come up with better words myself to say why all these special little snowflakes should be this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. Well, that wraps up this Do You Mind Closing the Door for Me from the Other Side edition of the Bogosity podcast. Come join the discussion at forum.bogosity.tv and feel free to send a question, statement, news article, or rant in text or audio to podcast@bogosity.tv. This podcast depends on you to keep going, so please donate using the links on the website or the QR codes in the thumbnail, or become a patron at patreon.bogosity.tv and get the podcast and YouTube videos early and without ads or promos. Thank you for listening. Until next time, here's a quote from Ray Bradbury. There is more than one way to burn a book, and the world is full of people running about with lit matches. Every minority feels it has the will, the right, the duty to douse the kerosene, light the fuse. Fire-Captain Beatty, in my novel Fahrenheit 451, described how the books were burned first by minorities, each ripping a page or paragraph from this book, then that, until the day came when the books were empty and the mines shut and the libraries closed forever. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License.
Bogosity.
Want answers to creationist claims against evolution? Would you like to know more about evolution yourself, or even engage creationists more directly, with actual peer-reviewed sources to back you up? My book, How Evolution is Scientific, is designed to show the basics of evolutionary theory and how it is so well supported using the scientific method. It's impeccably sourced, with references to the actual scientific material, and is arranged using the creationists' own criteria of what is scientific. Using their own arguments against them, see how evolution is scientific, but creationism is not, based on observations, accurate predictions, logic, and evidence. Get answers to common creationist claims, and even a primer on abiogenesis, the start of all life. It's all in my book, How Evolution is Scientific, available at Amazon and on Kindle, EPUB, and PDF as well. Get How Evolution is Scientific and never be taken in by creationists again.